The beginning of The Prisoner of Azkaban is it's a masterclass in building tension. So in this explainer, we're going to break down how a series of escalating threats, from the totally mundane to the deeply magical, really sets the stage for what is, arguably, one of Harry Potter's darkest years.
So, obviously, we're diving into the third book of the series. But what's so interesting is that the story doesn't kick off with some big, flashy wizard duel. Nope. It starts in the suffocating quiet of a regular suburban house. And that's exactly where the first conflict is already brewing.
It really makes you wonder, right? What happens when a teenager who happens to be a wizard and has put up with years of just awful abuse finally snaps? Well, during Harry's 13th summer, one last straw pushes him right over the edge, and it lights the fuse on a chain of events that's going to change everything.
See, the first layer of conflict we encounter isn't some terrifying dark wizard. It's much closer to home. It's the domestic threat. It's that crushing day-to-day misery of living with the Dursleys, a family that absolutely despises the magic that's literally in his blood.
And this right here perfectly captures the two worlds Harry's constantly torn between. On one side, you've got his reality at Privet Drive, where he's basically an outcast, forced to hide who he really is. But on the other side, there's Hogwarts, a place where he belongs, where he has friends, where he can just be himself. And it's that huge contrast that makes his summer feel like a prison sentence. It's just unbearable.
So the fuse gets lit for the first big explosion when Aunt Marge shows up. I mean, think of her as the Dursleys' cruelty turned up to 11. She's this woman who just seems to enjoy tormenting Harry, even comparing him to a badly bred dog. It's awful. And then she says this, and with this one line, Marge goes way past simple bullying. This is just pure, unadulterated cruelty. When she insults Harry's mother, she's attacking the memory of the only two people who ever truly loved him, and that is the final straw.
And in a flash of just pure, white-hot, uncontrolled rage, Harry's magic just erupts. There's no wand, no spell. He just inflates his aunt like some kind of horrible, monstrous balloon. And in that one single moment, he's broken wizarding law. And in his mind, that's it. He's done. He's absolutely convinced he's getting expelled from the only place he's ever really called home.
So picture the scene. The Dursleys are screaming. A fully inflated Aunt Marge is bumping against the ceiling, and Harry's survival instinct just kicks into high gear. He grabs his trunk and he is out of there, which kicks off the second stage of our story, the flight from suburbia.
His escape is just pure, unthinking panic. Step 1, grab the trunk and wand. Step 2, run out into the dark street. And then, Step 3, that's when the terrifying realization hits him. He's 13 years old, he's an outcast, and he has absolutely nowhere to go.
And right at that moment, just as he's hitting rock bottom, a magical solution literally appears out of thin air: the night bus. It's chaotic, it's probably dangerous, and it is completely absurd. Which, makes it the perfect symbol for the wild, unpredictable world he's just crashed back into.
And then you meet Stan Shunpike, right? This kind of gawky teenage conductor. He brings a bit of humor and, weirdly, a bit of normalcy back into the whole crazy situation. But it's on this insane bus ride that Harry starts to realize his own personal crisis, while it's just one small piece of a much, much bigger and more dangerous story that's unfolding.
Okay, so this brings us to the third, and honestly, the most significant threat. Harry thinks his biggest problem is the Ministry of Magic coming after him for doing illegal magic. He couldn't be more wrong. There's a far, far greater danger out there now.
It's on the night bus that Harry first hears the name Sirius Black. And as you can see from this list, we are not talking about some petty criminal. Black is painted as the wizarding world's absolute worst nightmare, a mass murderer, Voldemort's top supporter, and, get this, the first person to ever escape the supposedly inescapable prison, Azkaban.
So when Harry gets to the leaky cauldron, he's totally bracing himself to be arrested. But instead, he finds the Minister of Magic himself, Cornelius Fudge, and he's not angry at all. He actually seems relieved. The whole "I blew up my aunt" thing, totally swept under the rug. This leaves Harry completely baffled. Why on earth is the Ministry so desperate to keep him safe and sound?
Then, a little later, Harry overhears Mr. and Mrs. Weasley arguing, and their fight really gets to the heart of a huge dilemma. Do you try to protect a kid by keeping them in the dark, or do you arm them with a terrifying truth? Molly just wants to shield him, but Arthur is adamant. Ignorance is a luxury that Harry simply can't afford right now.
And then,
Harry learns the chilling truth. Mr. Weasley tells him what the guards at Azkaban heard Sirius Black muttering over and over in his sleep. He's at Hogwarts. He's at Hogwarts. Suddenly, it all clicks into place. This threat isn't random. Sirius Black has one target and one target only: Harry Potter.
So, naturally, Harry is heading to the one place in the world he considers truly safe: Hogwarts. But this year, even the journey there is a constant reminder that things have changed. Danger is no longer a distant threat. It's closing in.
On the Hogwarts Express, in their usual compartment, they find a sleeping stranger. Turns out, this is Professor R.J. Lupin, their new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. His completely exhausted appearance is a total mystery, and it's also a pretty subtle hint that this is going to be a difficult year.
And that brings us to the final, terrifying escalation of the opening. Think about it. The domestic threat was emotional. The criminal threat was physical. But this new threat, this is something else entirely. This is supernatural.
All of a sudden, the train just grinds to a halt. Then, the lights go out. A cold, so intense it feels like it's coming from inside you, sweeps through the car. And then, a towering, cloaked figure just glides into their compartment.
Okay, so this thing is not a wizard. It's a Dementor, one of the guards from Azkaban. And as Professor Lupin later explains, these things are among the foulest creatures on the planet. They literally suck all the peace, hope, and happiness out of the air around them. They feed on despair.
Now, the Dementor's presence is awful for everyone in that compartment, but it hits Harry in a uniquely horrible way. He doesn't just feel cold and sad, he faints. And right as he's passing out, he hears something that nobody else does: the terrified, pleading screams of his own mother in the final moments before she died. And that right there raises the central question for the entire book. See, Sirius Black is the external threat, the bad guy on the loose. But the Dementors, they reveal an internal threat. Why is Harry so uniquely vulnerable to them? It tells us his biggest challenge this year isn't going to be fighting a dark wizard, it's going to be fighting his own past. And figuring out how to do that becomes the real test of his third year at Hogwarts.